I will give a brief introduction of what we did last time, okay? First of all, if you remember, do a quick catch-up of what we did the last time. First of all, who I am, just in case you didn't see the first part, I'm basically an academic translator into business. That means from after my PhD, I started working data scientist about 2014. It's 11 years now, and from there, I moved in this data sciences role until now, where I am Chief AI Officer of AI Technologies. I manage various different AI projects. Full disclosure, I also advisor for a few funds. One is Wahed Saudi Aramco and ISO and IEEE standards. That said, if you remember last time, part one, which I really suggest you to check it, I introduced was the report is, how we structure it. I will not go too long on that part, more on that in part one, but just to so everyone start to look at part two, is the way we structure this report ends the trend prediction is to use what we call a formula framework. Okay, so every trend prediction, it comes from, oh, apologies, I forgot to put a head and in these slides, and so the each trend prediction come about what we call a formula framework. Okay, this formula framework has 4 components. One is what we call secular trends, so trends that happen more than 10 years. We all reviewed them in the part one. Catalyst trend, we review part of them in part one, and contingent event. All that together create a situation that allow us to infer what is going to happen in the next 1 or 2 years. That's what we call a trend prediction. Okay, again, secular trend that are happening for 10 years or more. One more important is aging. All population, most part of the world is aging. Catalyst trend, AI regulation, for example. And contingent event is like the recent model release. Yesterday was like OpenAI GPT 4.5, for example. A few days ago was DeepSeek or Grok, the latest model, etc. So this will be considered contingent event. Okay, the combination of that allow us to understand, roughly speaking, what's the trajectory, what will be the trend prediction of that. And on that, since that is important, because as I say last time, the most important thing of the whole report is where this trend prediction coming from, right? What are the reasons? You may not agree in the final trend prediction, but that means, in my judgment, even more value in understanding where this trend prediction is coming from, including the frame of mind that allow us to do the trend prediction. Also, I'm very open to this. We use this formula framework not only to validate, but in reverse most of the time. Let's say I have a trend prediction of, I don't know, AI replacing certain jobs. I will use these to validate. This is a great validation way, in my judgment, to understand is any trend prediction I may have in mind is sound or not. So it validates if any trend prediction I may come out with my mind is absurd or actually has some ground to deserve validity element of that. Okay. In that sense, I saw from the last video that it was very important for the audience to see that. So, and for that reason, I allow myself to open again a Google Draw again. So a new file. I redraw again a visual way to analyze this formula. Okay, give me a moment. And you should see this in a second. Let's see. Yeah, you can see that here, right? So I will draw again this formula. So once again, I put the formula here so everyone see that, okay? I will try to visualize for you this formula, okay? Secular trend to plus catalyst trend indicate contingent event, which or we can see as today, plus a trend prediction. Okay, that's what we want to. If we want to visualize this format, will be as follows. Okay, line. So if you put a line like that and a line like that, that will be count as your trend prediction, okay? Sorry, the secular trend. So that barrier in which your trend, so this is time, by the way. Oop, I put it time. This is time. Like that and like that. So, and then we call it this time, yeah? So over time, you have a secular trend. So there are barriers up and down in which our prediction cannot cross this line, okay? This is what we call secular trend, yeah? Barrier in which any prediction come in my mind cannot cross that, otherwise it will likely be invalid or very unlikely in fantasy, basically. Now, what a catalyst trend will be? A catalyst trend will be if I am here. A catalyst trend will be something like a point here. One moment. Sorry, shouldn't be that slow. Anyway, okay, so a catalyst trend can be like, again, the AI regulation, okay? A dot here in light blue. Another catalyst trend can be, as we see the side, energy consumption prediction. Again, a slightly light blue, okay? Now, it's not even doing that. Okay. And then we have a contingent event. Contingent event can be AI application in cybersecurity, new deepfake solution. Let's put it that way. Or I will do that in colors, something like that. Yeah, I put that in yellow. Okay, and then I put another one, yellow like that, slightly there. That says like a contingent event can be GPT 4.5. Okay, now as you can see, I can draw a line here. Yeah, that will be a trend prediction. Okay, certain point as a catalyst kind of trend in the past, we are here. Yeah, and certain contingent event, which is the present in yellow, and then you can find a line. If this point will be here, yeah, then the trend prediction, so to speak, will be here. Yeah. Again, it's important to understand this is a kind of a validation point of view. What I mean by that is, let's imagine that I think, as a hypothetical idea, I want to validate the idea that within a year there will be a lot of redundancy in healthcare because diagnosis diagnosis or whatever will be automatic with AI. Okay. Now, well, we know for a fact that there is aging population. So aging population means we have a lot of patients, more than in the past. The number of patients is increasing because the older population, the one that are the larger percentage of patient is increasing. So the fact that we have more patient means that we earn more medical care. At the same time, since it's aging population, it also means we have less doctor because even the doctor got retired. So the fact that and then the fact that we are using AI for medical instrument, I read a paper last day, say that there is no indication that radiologists, for example, will be displaced. That could be a contingent event, if I say that. And another contingent event will be the adoption in healthcare that is only in specific function. Okay. Now, if you see that, the idea that in 1 or 2 years you're gonna have a massive reduction in healthcare is completely out of this validation, because all the points, both from secular point of view, aging, for contingent point of view, the AI adoption today in healthcare, or catalyst point of view, the adoption for regulation, for example, AI regulation in the past few years, does not support in any possible case this idea that AI will reduce the workforce in our care. In fact, it's the opposite. Yeah. So this is think is hopefully it's clear. I think if there is one idea that hopefully I explained a little bit better than last time is important is the idea of this formula framework. Yeah. So there is barrier, the secular trend in which any idea that cross this barrier is a bit outside what can happen. Then there is the catalyst trend that can give you a trajectory of what is happening in the last few years that can be inferring what happen next. And then there are specific dots, yeah, or what is happening right now. If you combine all these dots, you will be in position to have a trend prediction for the next 1 or 2 years. Again, the idea that AI will go out of healthcare, if you read the catalyst trend in the report and the secular trend in the report, is basically out of this validated framework. Hence, the idea of AI replacing health worker is really out of it, as we can see more in the trend prediction. Okay, so that explained. Let's move over on the trend report. Okay. You see the presentation in a second. So again, I explain you again what it is. And let's go quickly again, but very briefly, if you want a more detailed review of the trend we already elaborated, discussed the last time. I suggest to you to see the part 1. We go to the best AI advancement and the part 1. I will not repeat that. And then we go to the trend hybridization. We are basically merging for the machine. By the way, all these trends, whether you like it or not, nobody can move them. The second, as I say, even in the example, is aging. Now there is obesity as adults. Again, we're increasing the budget and all the resources really to take care of this problem. Asian growing economies, that is expected, and this is a secular trend that is lasting. It will continue to last for decades. World polarization is due to, to basically fragmentation due to political reason, but other reason for sharing resources in this planet. And then the secular trend we already treated and discussed last time, the governance of AI. There are a few, the most famous one, the EU AI Act, coming to effect in July last year. We discussed that the data, both synthetic and human generation, where we are for that. Again, discussed last year. The cloud data center adoption. I will touch point element of this even in today live, but the most important one, please remember that because it's very important, is the fact that basically the US is about more actually than 5,000 data centers. I know not all data centers are born equal, I get that, but still 5,000, and the second one, which I believe is Germany, is a bit round, this number 6 should be 8%, but nevertheless it's about 500. So the second place is 500, it's not even China. Is Germany with about 500 data centers. Second, UK, fourth is China, with all about really roughly 500, so a fraction of the data center, between 8 and 10% of the data center of US. Okay, we are gonna touch more about that later when I talk about different trend. And we stop at here, yeah, about discussing the trend on energy, supply and consumption on energy. As you can imagine, this is a very important topic because many sources, right or wrong, they are discussing that AI can absorb a vast amount of the total global energy production. Whether it is right or wrong long term, I don't know. All I have to do, I remember this is a catalyst trend, and all I care for the sake of this report, it was going to happen in the next 1 or maximum 2 years. Okay, if it happened later, well, so be it. But all I care about for the sake of this report is to understand the energy supply and consumption for the second next 2 years, and the prediction and the impact in AI. Okay, just remember that. I'm not talking about 10 years from now. I never know even how to analyze that. That said, let's look at the energy both supply and consumption, so we can infer something to AI later in the prediction. So thermal oil and gas is still projected to have a demand. The demand will be still a little bit lower than actually the supply. I think it's called Permian Basin, which is in the south, roughly in Texas, I believe. Is still the largest producer of oil, but it's gonna peak in 2026. At least that's the expectation. Now, I wouldn't say we are carbon free. I mean coal free, if that is a term, coal free in the West, but definitely we are decreasing a lot, at least in Western countries, our exposure and consumption of coal to produce electricity in plant and things like that, while China and Asia still increase their consumption of coal. In fact, China at the moment, I believe, consumes 60% of the world coal, which also use it in, again, is important for the AI implication. For coal is used for basically electricity plant. Yeah. Now, what is going to happen long term, roughly speaking, but different sources, as you can see here, the energy supply will still be carbon based, but about 40 to 60%. The rest will be on renewable or low emission. Okay. The most advanced in at least renewable or low emission are the UK and the US, UK and the EU. Okay. While all the other countries are less inclined to be fully or predominantly supplied by renewable sources. In any case, due to Amber, the electricity production, due to the predicted amount of data center cooling, will increase 28%. And even if the demand of electricity rises up to 3.5% yearly, the production of renewable should be on par or catch up or even rising more the demand if the demand rises up to 3.5%. Therefore, in case I also look at that, obviously electricity production by renewable is very related to batteries. You need battery for the production in renewables, which also is connected to minerals. But I could not find any sign of crisis or shortage in the short term, 1 or 2 years, or any mineral related to batteries. Okay, so from that point of view, it doesn't seem to me that in 1 or 2 years AI will actually be so impactful on the energy consumption due to this data. But the actual bottleneck, and you can read the source in the last point, will be on transmission grid stability. So the actual problem in energy supply is not the production itself, but it's actually the state of, in some cases, decay of the actual grid stability itself. Especially because if you think about wind, or solar energy, is sometimes or more than sometimes produced in rural area with less connectivity on grid, which also increases the stress on the grid because the grid there is at the edge of the point, so you have more problem of energy dispersion, transmission, so far so on. So therefore, the actual immediate problem is not actually production and supply on energy, but is more on handling this increased supply with a more updated grid, which at the moment is underinvested by different sources. You can read it here. That said, move on to the next slide. Just in case I'm looking for if there is anyone that is, please, if you have any comment, I will do my best to read them. I'm not too good in reading comments, but if you have, I will look at them as best as I can in this slide, just in case. I cannot see any, but I'll try again. Maybe I need to do that way to see if there are any comment. Okay, no comments. Good. Let's move on. And the next catalyst trend. Again, catalyst trend means things that happen in 5 years or less, and they obviously have a reverberation or impact in the next few years, and they can change, while secular trend cannot change so fast and last way longer. Energy, crypto ecosystem development and AI. Now, we are in a moment in time in which crypto in general, blockchain in general, should say the technical term, are related to AI more than ever. And there are elements of merging these two very different technology. I will explain why, especially on the threat prediction. But nevertheless, let's look at this graph in this slide. First of all, we could see on the right that the adoption is actually higher in, how would I say, emerging technologies. On the image on the right, you see the first top 3 countries are actually Indonesia, India, Nigeria, and Indonesia. Only 4th is the US, and most of other countries are actually, how would I say, emerging countries, most of them. This is kind of natural if you think about the instabilities or the inflation and instability on their currencies. So therefore, for them, a volatility of Bitcoin is nothing new and nothing too different on the volatility they already experience, if not worse, of their own national or local currencies. And therefore, we can see as the first bullet point, yes, we cross 100K in USD value of Bitcoin, and hence all the ecosystem will follow. But adoption per purchase parity, GPD adjusted, is actually much higher in countries in which there is no economical, let alone currency stability. On top of that, we are more than 8 billion people in this world, 560 million are, which about 6.8% of the population is owning Bitcoin at the moment. Majority is male, 61%. It's not a surprise the majority is below 34 years old. Now, there is another element of it, which is even institution and institutional investors are now more keen to have cryptos in general, blockchain related product and services for their own even consumer investors. In fact, we've seen last year the first ETF in Ethereum and Bitcoin, and are expected to have other ETF products in 2025, which basically means, especially in the larger government or the most prominent government like the US, Chinese different, but let's say US, are more open to the adoption of blockchain technology overall and investment in these technologies overall. Now, as I say, my interest is where AI merged with, in this case, the blockchain technologies. And the interest is because in AI, you need way to share data and or power resources that may able to, for example, train a model, and that can be sort of possible with certain blockchain technology and community within the blockchain. One of the great thing about blockchain, they structure through communities and that allow early adopters. In any technology, before getting to the mass population, you need early adopter niche group, and that in that sense, I would say that blockchain is great because it creates different early adopter communities, all related by one token, whatever the token will be. For example, render for sharing computer power, not necessarily for AI, but I'm saying that we are getting to that's why it's a trend, a catalyst trend. It's getting toward the merging between AI and blockchain solution. Anyways, render is just an example of sharing computer power for, I think, is graphical rendering, I think, or NTF or authenticated data for training models like BitTensor, ASI token, or to the very end, we are going to discuss that in the prediction. There will be a agent that are built through blockchain, and they use AI technologies to digest, analyze, and reply like a chatbot. Okay. Now you build blockchain in solution like virtual or graphene, and then you embed on it AI element to perform certain operation. I talk more about later in one of the trend prediction. And with that, let's go to the next slide. Quickly checking if there is any comment. I cannot see any. Okay, cool. And move on to the next slide. The next slide is all about supply chain localization, sovereign cloud, and workforce. Why that is important? Well, to say that one of the things that is obvious, especially because I believe yesterday Trump administration in the US announced something that, well, publicly announced something that likely we already know. In fact, it's written here. The TMC or other, manufacturer like Lenovo announced expansion of their manufacturing within the US soil or Saudi Arabia. Therefore, there is a tendency, therefore, this is why it's a catalyst trend to increase production within the boundary of each country or near the boundaries of each countries. And it's important to understand that it's as political as apparently there are economical benefits to doing so. What I mean by that, for example, is PwC did a survey, and 82% of the company are improving more resilient. And this is understandable. I mean, you rely on a shorter supply chain, therefore there are less risks of disruption, and it's understandable. But equally important, there is 77% of the case that they actually reported an improvement in basically a reduction in cost. So if you do a moderate localization. Now, moderate localization, there are many ways to interpret this ambiguous in a way term, but that means that it's not just black and white, right? It's not that fully localized compared to long supply chain. It's a supply chain that is, I would say, it depends also what PwC intend for that, but definitely means shorter and closer to the border or the final delivery in the country you want to deliver the services. Equally important. Now, sovereign cloud. For the people that are listening, they don't know, sovereign cloud, roughly speaking, means cloud that are server, all the infrastructure within the boundary of the country you're providing the service to, and is embedded and natively respect all series of AI or not AI, all the regulation provided instead of adding on top. What I mean by that, even if you take, I live in UK, if I take a server in US, natively that server will not necessarily respect all the UK legislation. I can make it doing like GDPR or the data and encryption in certain ways for the healthcare of the UK. I technically could make some, apart, of course, there is another in another country, the physical server in another country that cannot change, but I could theoretically change all sort of processing, etc., to comply with other law or other countries. But I need to make an effort on it. Yeah, and sovereign cloud is all system on feature and how would I say, software solution embedded into the server infrastructure. They allow to automatically respect all the regulation within their sovereign country. Okay, and they expected to double. Now, if you remember last time, I already touched it once again in a few moments ago. You will remember, as I said before, in the slide about cloud and data centers growth, that again, US are more than 5,000 data centers. The second is Germany with about 500 data centers, and so is China and the UK. So a fraction of the data center of what there is in US. Therefore, it should not surprise you that there is a good push to have more data center, even if there are sovereign cloud and data center within the boundary of each country. Okay, and this trend will continue for a while. Not surprising again. Now, We conclude with the workforce is important because, as as you read in the news, many conclude that AI will likely displace, workers in many different sectors. So it's important to at least have some statistic of where these workers are employed. And according for the US, if you take the latest data from the worker PS.gov website, official website, you will see that 30% is in professional service, same for healthcare and social care, and the third is in the public sector, so the government, as the third larger employment, all sort of government, by the way, not only of federal state. The fourth is manufacturing with 8%. Now, according to different sources, including for the localization aspect of the political aspect of localization, many statistics and many sources report an actually in growth in employment in healthcare, public sector, and manufacturing, no decrease. Maybe public sector is the one that will grow the least, but the other two are definitely, for most sources, expected to grow in workforce in the next few years. That said, we move to the next slide, in which we analyze the VC investment trend, which is obviously where most of the. It's important to notice that most of the most predominant AI scale up that you hear at the moment are not profitable. Clear example is OpenAI. Yeah, it's not profitable. They are keep burning money, and the VC investment part of it is even more important. Yeah, if you want to say a sustained operation in a non-profitable environment. That said, what is happening in the last few years that can give us a hint what is going to happen in the next year or so. So the global VC investment in 2044 depends on the sources, really, is either slightly decline or slightly increase compared to 2023. So in terms of volume, yeah, total money invested, doesn't matter in which round, which ticket size, roughly is between 300 billion. Okay, vast majority is obviously in US. Vast majority, you can see that in the in the image at the center. Yeah, and importantly, all this VC money, about 30%, around 100 billion, goes to AI. Yeah, AI related, I should say that. Of these 100 billion, 58 billion or 58% are for mega round, which is a huge. Was already the trend of mega round last year. It was 15%, not 58%. So it's a continued increase in this trend of financing more mega round than any other round. This basically confirmed that in the VC mentality, there is a concentration of more of money in few shortlisted winners. Yeah, the Databricks, the OpenAI, Waymo, Anthropic, few names most of these names you may recognize. So it was expected since in this year that there is no emergent new winner possible. That's what it means, or at least they don't believe if they would the vast majority of money mega round. Okay, now combined with that, we see the C stage deals up to 10 million usually. That's what it means, C stage. Compared to 2023, is either increasing slightly or reporting a flat growth, things like that. So nothing changed. Again, that confirmed that at least in the VC mind, the race is on few already existing shortlisted. No newcomer can displace the already shortlisted winner. That's at least what they believe. In fact, DeepSeek, I believe, will change that, but we'll talk about that in the prediction slide. Next, we have the labor shortages. Now, to do that, again, if any question will come here, I will read it. No? Okay. So, The labor shortage. No, you need to remember again. If you see, I invite you for a more detailed explanation, the secular trend of aging. There is an aging population, so you can understand that if you have an aging population, the proportion in retirement age is increasing over the total of population, yeah? And the next generation, I'm talking specifically, the boomer generation is going to retire, or is retiring actually now. The following generation, Gen X and Gen Y and Z, they cannot replace the total of them, yeah? Or they can replace slowly because they are in number less than the boomer generation, okay? That's by itself, it could create labor shortages, okay? If you add that some few statistics, like in 2024 there was 1.2 job openings for each unemployed person. This probably suggests there is no lack of job, there is just lack of skill or reskilling people, yeah. And at the same time, we expect for various sources, you can read here, there will be acute worker shortage in medical role. Now it's too long here, but that's also because of this fear of AI. It's too long for a discussion here, but I can say a few examples. For example, radiology, yeah. There was few years back a huge hype that IBM was about to replace all radiologists due to their solution. Okay, that didn't happen, but what actually happened out of the fear that the radiology were about to be displaced is nobody signed up for a radiologist degree after the medical degree, I believe. Therefore, the fear of something that is not happening, it exacerbated a problem that already existing, yeah, due to aging, yeah. So again, due to the secular trend of aging, more people are retired, the people that are substituting them, hence there is a shortage, including especially in healthcare, because the people retired are actually the people that need more care for the healthcare system. And if you add on that specific case, like the case before, I don't have time for that. There is fear of replacement, and people don't study certain subjects because they fear the AI will take them anyway. That's exacerbate the problem many folds. Now, in other industry, by 2030, the manufacturing industry could have 2.1 million jobs unfilled, costing the economy up to 1 trillion. That's, again, there is a source for that. And as I said before, in general term, this is not just a US problem, but globally, by Corn Ferry, we expect to have 85 million jobs lost or unfilled due to aging population. Okay, and that will be important later when we analyze the impact of AI on the workforce. Then trend catalyst 9, public spending a GPT debt ratio. Again, for each slide, I'll try to see if there is any comment on that. Nope, at least I cannot see it. Okay, so trend 9, public spending GDP debt ratios. Now, you may know or not know, but nevertheless, I'll tell you, over the last few years and counting, expected to still happen in the next few years, the EU actually has a decreasing debt, however, has flat growth. On the contrary, China and US, as you can see on the chart on the top of the slide, have a good growth, but they have a rising debt. So all the problem is, do you value more growth or you value more a decreasing in debt? Up to you to judge, but this is a fact. So you have both in US, you have both rising debt and growth. In EU, you don't have growth or you don't have much growth, but you have a decrease in debt overall. Up to you what to make of that, but definitely is an important fact to consider, especially because part of it is of these spending or GDP spending, they increase the debt, is due to military spending, okay? We reached an all-time high of 2.4 trillion in 2023, which is about 7%, sorry, of the increase in 2022. Okay. It's not a surprise. The US remained the largest defense spender with a short of 1 trillion, okay, 900 billion in 23 or 850 billion in 20 or expected in 25, so a short less, which is about 40% of the global military spending. Now, not to be confused, that if you see on the graph, you will probably consider China spending much less, which is true in face value, nominal value dollars, which about China spent about 200 billion in 2024. But if you adjust for purchase power parity, the gap between the two countries, US and China, in military spending is much less. As you can see in this chart from the economists, if you adjust for purchase power parity, because obviously in China cost everything less, right? So counting everything in dollar, it may be not the right thing to do. But with this adjustment, you will see that yes, the US still spend a lot. All the NATO member combining actually still spend less by roughly 70% of what the US spend, and 40% less is what China actually spent. Now, what is important, as I said before, when I say, do you value more growth or do you value more a reduction in debt? What is more important? Well, according to sources like IMF, the public debt keep increasing a percentage of GDP spending, and is stable in EU. Inflation seems to be stable. We tamed it. But the GPA is expected to grow in Asia, in Asian, not China, in Asian, I mean Asian like India, Indonesia, countries like that, Vietnam, a country like that, but not in EU. That's IMF studies. That continue with the next, and I believe the last catalyst trend. Again, I remember, any prediction we do is based on a formula framework we have in mind that needs to consider secular trend like aging that is happening for decades and it will continue, and catalyst trend that is happening for 5 years or less and will continue. Therefore, based on this framework and contingent event we can see as we speak, we can infer something about the next year or so. With this is the last catalyst trend we are going to analyze. It's virtualization of living. Okay. What I mean by that, as you can see in the last, I don't know, 20 years, maybe 25, with the rise of the internet, we are increasingly using the internet more and getting comfortable with it. I'm talking about generation after the boomer generation. So I'm talking about millennials born between 81 and 96, Gen Z, 97 and 12, which they see their online experiences as meaningful substitution of in-person interaction. Look, I live in UK. Most boomer generation, they love to go to the pub, having a beer or things like that. Less so the next generation, right? They like to go on Facebook or whatever other social network they prefer and socializing through that as a meaningful experience rather than a beer in a pub. That's a fact. It's not neither, in my judgment, neither good or bad. It's a fact. Equally, 40% of Gen Z, they like socialize more in video game than offline. That will be, as a consequence, as you can see in the next point, the industry gaming industry is actually booming now, worth more than 200 billion, of which half of it, more than half, is mobile gaming. Okay. And now is an important point because it's not that people just like to play games like this industry will alludes, but they like to watch other people playing games, like our audience, yeah? And this audience is about 640 million in 2025, of which Mostly it's not written here, but I believe a good majority, slightly majority is male. Okay. Now, the vast majority of players of video game consumer are from generation Z and millennial, 70 to 80%. Okay. Now, why that is so important, I don't think it's been socially analyzed enough. As I say, you have now audience, not people watching football, I mean real physical football or other sport, tennis, whatever it is. I mean people using their body to do some sports, but you have people watching other people using a keyboard, as in playing an e-sport, okay? To the point that, as you see in the third point, the top, if you look at the top esports like League of Legends, Dota 2, there are a few others, but just to give an example, League of Legends or Dota 2, the top players, so the top earners, are a salary, or they bring home in any case $2 million per year, dollars per year, yeah. Or the average player in one of these games is half a million per year in dollars. Now, a football league, the top football league, like the Premier League, the Liga in Spain, Premier League is in UK, those of you that are maybe US, they can easily earn 2-4 million per year or more. Okay, so as you can see, a player that actually uses bodies at the best of his ability, and any ability, but definitely there is a good component of his body's ability, right? As roughly now matched with someone that basically doesn't use his body at all. He just uses his reflection time and his reflection basically, and his fingers, not his body at all. I think this is a very fundamental change. I would say never happened in humanity. What I mean by that, and this is a long discussion, but just want to give a hint of that. So since we are in this planet, really, we tend to either make idols, or anyway to cheers, or to, in a way, venerate people that are very good in sport. There are a fundamental reason for that is that usually the greatest athlete is a model of inspiration, because the more we train our body, sadly, the more these people are useful for war. Yeah, you need physical. In other words, you need physical strength to go into war. Now, good or bad, to be the best in war, you don't need the best bodies, etc. You don't need physical strength, or you need way less. You need the best drone pilot. Guess what? A video game, a top esport video gamer is probably likely a great drone, pilot. It's a video game. It's akin of a video game, controlling a drone to best your activity. So this is a fundamental shift of how humanity behave. Before, the body and training your body to maximum your ability to sport, etc., it was rewarded even financially. It still is, but it's now catch up with people that do not train their body at all, apart from their fingers and reflection ability, response time, and there is a fundamental reason why that is so valuable, because sadly, the next wars, or the war we actually living right now, are way more, prone to be win by, virtual technology like drone and things like that. And therefore, this is just a reflection on what is important for us. When in terms of what's the valuable skills you need to have in the future is nothing related to your physical body, or very limited. Long discussion, but let's move on. I hopefully it was not this is important to listen. Next is 37% of users adult online dated at some point. Okay, 61 perceive the relationship that begin on dating site as successful as Those that begin in person, and not surprising, majority is below 50 years old. Again, this is a virtualization of living, and most people consider even dating online or any meaningful relation they started a continued line to be of as valuable as the one that they are physical. This is a reiteration of that point. And on that, there is a trend that I think is going to continue. There is the working from home trend, which is obviously part of the virtualization of living, working from home. 14% of Americans work from home all the time. I'm expecting, this is my own judgment, that this number will not increase substantially. But of the 41% of employees working remotely on a hybrid basis, that probably is going to increase a little bit. Okay. And the downside of this intensive use of the internet, the gaming, and therefore very soon the AI technologies is, at least reported on some studies, a decrease in cognitive abilities, and similarly again, as you will see in some studies of AI. Sadly, when we interact with new technologies, and you can consider in a way that even the smartphone are relatively new technologies. I know it's 20 years, but is it 20 years a long time? In terms of civilization, is nothing. So it's very likely that we still have a lot to do in terms of understanding how to best use this technology without abusing it, which means without diminishing our cognitive abilities. And the same thing will happen with AI. It's natural, nothing you can avoid, because human being try to get in situation of shortcuts. A shortcut create situation in which actually long term you have a disadvantage. You trade an advantage in the short term for a disadvantage of the long term. Classical example is student that make they don't write their thesis anymore, or they don't write stuff anymore. They make use of AI technology or LLM or whatever that is, and they don't learn how to write. A short advantage, I don't spend time on writing my thesis. For a long-term disadvantage, I never learn how to write. That's the way it is. Next is now again. So what we did so far is explain to you all the secular trends that are impacting on us and will continue to impact on us for a long time. Catalyst trends that are already happening for 5 years or less and continue to happening. And then it's time to analyze how this trend plus the contingent event that you will see on the left are actually allowing us to make some prediction of what is happening or is going to happen in the next 1 or 2 years, okay? Especially in the next year. So, the first trend prediction is about AI capital, energy, and economy, okay? Now, is or at least it was in January and sometime in February, what DeepSeek, the Chinese lab, or spin-off of hedge fund, apparently, achieved with their model, especially I'm talking about the R1. Basically was almost on par with the latest OpenAI model, or free. And it showed these results with comparatively lower budget and less energy post-training. Now, this is a long discussion here, but these numbers are to be treated with a grain of salt. Yes, the final run is less than $25 million. To give a comparison, even Claude founders from Anthropic, basically, Anthropic, which is the creator of the LLM called Claude, say that basically their final run is similar to this number. So it's nothing too crazy about that. But hey, they created a buzz on not only big thing can do what the biggest player or the big guy can do. This is more, in a way, it was a way to show that the psychological barrier was breaking. So rather than the technical barrier was breaking, because again, Even Tropic Cloud has similar numbers in terms of how much it costs to find a runner. On top of that, DeepSeek could not exist without all the free available resources from Llama and Meta and all the rest making available for free. So it's not that they didn't use anything was built free. In fact, they use any latest research and data, etc., was available to date, and that was costing a lot of money just they could access for free, including allegedly, and this is allegedly, OpenAI distillation from the model, which technically is an infringement of their, usage agreements. That said, it was a good way. Again, to me, there is an element of psychological barrier being broken, as in even small team they have done big names can succeed in this game. Equally important for the term of energy and the economy related to AI, Blackwell GPU. Yeah, NVIDIA Blackwell is the new, the code name for the latest is NVIDIA GPU. There are up to 8 times more efficient for inference, depending on the standalone or large configuration. Is a long discussion we may touch in one another trend. AI training and data center power optimization. Well, as I said before, no data center are born equal, and definitely the last one born are way more efficient, up to 50% more efficient than the previous one. And this is a very good, 50% more efficient. The older data center is a huge number. Now, there are other studies that compare if a human is gonna output, in this case, 333 tokens, how much energy a human will consume to output 330 tokens, compare how much energy will consume a model like Llama 65 billion. Okay. Actually, it turned out for a certain study that not only the human will take way more time, and that's we know it, but actually will consume more, since probably it's taking a lot more time, and it will consume much more energy. So there is a case on actually if you use this technology to generate text, you overall consuming less energy because they consume less energy compared to a human being. At the same time, for the same reason of to reduce energy consumption of the data centers, there are companies that raised money, in this case Lumen Orbit, 10 million, to build data center in space to spare electricity. Now, here the major cost is probably sending the equipment and building the data center, in the space. But once it's there, the operation cost and the electricity cost is much less because they have better way to take the power from the sun, etc. So if they succeed to get the right communication and putting the data center in space at a reasonable price, that could succeed in reducing even more the cost of a data center. Latest news, well, we know already, and we know that it's going to continue. The cost to use any of these Gen AI service is decreasing massively. I mean, the cost of what is in August 2024 for for a million token is a fraction of what was in 2023. $36 per million in 23, $4 per million in 24. And these costs will continue to decrease massively. This is the beauty, by the way, of capitalism, of people competing to each other. That's basically the result of capitalism and competition between companies. So what we can do with all of that? Well, first, due to DeepSeek, again, is kind of, as I say before, if you remember in the slide in which I discussed the trend on the catalyst trend of VC investment, you probably remember, I'm going to quickly go on that, a concentration of money in mega trend, okay? Now, what I believe, due to DeepSeek, being so prominent in the news, this trend is kind of a little bit on reverse. What I mean by that is that the money that goes on C stage, or anyway rounds less than 15 million, will increase instead of being flat. Again, the reason is DC show that even smaller company with relatively limited budget that can do top performance stuff was not believed possible before. That was a result of why they invested so much on mega trends compared to any other mega round, sorry, rather than compared to any other type of round. Equally important, if you remember, I already discussed what the difference between post-training, pre-training, but very briefly, pre-training when you start from scratch and then you have a foundation model. After that, you basically tune, post-train somehow, which means you use either a platform for certain trainee, like a Scale AI, etc., or use a curated list of data in certain source that post-train, usually through reinforcement learning from human firmware or DPO, the model to achieve the best result possible. Okay. Now, incidentally, DeepSeek, but not only DeepSeek, I have to say, if you see the list of paper or the best AI advancement, you will see basically all paper with similar technology, a DPO or RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback. These post-training are one of the key ingredients for a successful AI model. Therefore, startup, they're already data labeling company. And by the way, Scale AI has already a deal with OpenAI to data labeling and creating basically curated data set for OpenAI. I'm expecting the fact that due to the fact that these post-training techniques are even more important to create the best performance model ever, data labeling started to increase their value even more they are today. Just for the fact that this is crucial for best performance of the model. The post-training technique are crucial for the post-training technique are crucial for top performances of the model. Hence, startups that are in tune and aligned to basically implement this post-training technique, like data labeling companies, Scale AI, they alike, are best in tune to get even larger and higher evaluation they have today. Hopefully that is clear. Now, at the same time, if you see all this data and the trend about energy catalyst, the trend catalyst on energy, you will see I'm a bit skeptical on, at least in the next 1, if not 2 years, on AI consumption of electricity and power going off the chart, because again, there is a compounding effect of improving on performance of GPU, performance on the data center, supply of electricity is not really a big concern. What is going to emerge as a concern, at least the immediate bottleneck, is stability of the grid. That probably is going to become emergent rather than focuses on increasing the supply, which is not the immediate problem, at least not now. Okay. That said, we move to the next slide. Is all about AI hardware. Unless there is any question, I'm going quickly to check. No, there is any. Okay, cool. AI hardware. What we can say about AI hardware? Now, again, first of all, AI hardware is of 2 types. One is for training, which is called user GPU or TPU if you're using a Google, which they don't sell anyway. I explain what I mean in a second. I mean, Google has basically tensor processor unit that they use for training AI model, but never sell it. So nobody could buy it. They use only for internal, use cases. You cannot buy their own processors. And inference only. Inference means if a user using ChatGPT, is basically interacting with an inference processor unit. Okay. GPU instead is using for building the model, to train the model. Okay. On GPU, as I say, in January, NVIDIA released the Blackwell or Series 5000. or basically the latest model, and we can see that on average is 4x more power than the last generation, the Hopper 100 and 200 in large configuration, and up to 2.5 more performant of the small configuration, up to 8 GPUs. Now, regarding inference, they are not specialized for it. They can do inference, by the way, but they are not specialized for inference, as I'm going to discuss in the last section. It should be up to 5x, 5 times more performance, more configuration. The energy efficiency overall, it should be around 8x. So they are 8x more performant than the previous model, okay? Which is significant, all right? Now, you need to understand that, as you can see from this number, the largest jump in performance compared to the previous generation is large cluster. By the way, large cluster means more than 8 GPU put it together, okay? There is a reason for that. Now, who are the major client of the NVIDIA at the moment is large corporation, the Microsoft, the VM, whether they are, okay? Now, these companies buy large cluster GPU, and therefore they are not basically the larger customer of NVIDIA. They are not the consumer for my laptop or the consumer for any laptop really. They are this large corporation, and this large corporation buy large cluster. Therefore, they are optimizing to increase the performance of their their larger customers. That makes sense, right? And that's why you see why in small configuration on standalone, the jump in performance is smaller. There are also other technical reasons because it's that, but one of the reasons, the fundamental reason, is because the money is in the large in large customers. Equally important, if you see the latest AMD MI 300X in certain benchmark, they perform not too badly, I would say. In fact, they perform on par or the previous generation now, the Hopper from NVIDIA, okay? I have to say I didn't find any good information about Intel. In fact, I stopped there. I don't find any good information about Intel or their GPU performances. They probably lag very behind them. As I mentioned before with Google, there are a few large companies like Google, AWS that already have their own chips to train AI model. And the reason why we never heard about them is because they don't sell it. They use it for the internal usage and for their own processing activities. They don't sell their own chips. There is a users for that because if you think the margin on NVIDIA GPU is quite large now, so the incentive to build your internal chip, even if you don't do any money, you go on par. Why do you want to give money to NVIDIA? There is a good incentive now that the margin in NVIDIA is so large to produce this chip internally, as many large corporations are doing, Meta, Microsoft, to give an example, but also, XAI from Elon Musk is doing the same. They're started to think and how to more than think actually. They are actually building up their capabilities to start production of their own chips instead of gifting large margin to NVIDIA. That is up, but that's happened over the years. It's not something that you can do immediately. And this is for the GPUs. Now, for inference only, again, the GPU can do inference, but they are not specialized for inference, okay? There are companies that are just specialized, like Cerebras, Growth, Graco, Sampanova. They are just specialized to give you the best inference, as in when you're interacting with ChatGPT in your own, okay? Now, Cerebras, as far as I understand, is the one that perform better than everyone else. There are many technical reasons for that. And there are now many other startups, both for GPU and inference only chips. They are raised at more than 100 million, okay? So what we can infer from all that? First is NVIDIA is at least one generation of others and will continue to do so. Especially for large configuration, because that's where they spend most money and where their most client is. But that not to say that the combination of DeepSeek showing the way of, even if you don't have the super large cluster, you can still be in the game, and you have good AMD GPUs that are cheaper but still have good performances. This means that, first of all, a meat market will open up in which AMD can do a good part of it. In fact, I predict that at least 10% of the market will go to NVIDIA. A meat market, so again, the NVIDIA GPU would be still the player to go if you want the best performance and you don't care about price. If you want a good performance at a good price, basically an open up of the mid market, in this mid market, AMD will have at least 10% of this price of this market. Okay, and now a third and not least, I would assume, given the large margin that now NVIDIA commands, since it's the best, there is, I would know, in fact, I'm expecting that at least one new chip player with a different technology will announce order for at least 500 million. Okay. Now there are many. There are some that are favorite of mine. But without saying names, talk for another day. I was expecting that at least 500 in order, announcing orders. So still they need to do the production, the actual manufacturing, the chip, etc. But at least an announce in order of more than 500 million for a new chip player will happen this year, because the market is too large for not having at least another player that join the party. And with that, let's go to the prediction number 3. If there is anyone else that has any question on that, no, okay, good. And we can continue and analyze what is supposed to happen in a year or so in cybersecurity and related illegal issues. Now, on that, first of all, you need to understand that if the internet shut down in US for just 1 hour, that 1 hour will cost, roughly speaking, 450 million. Okay. Now, that's, by the way, why is one another thing is very prominent, Craigslist founder, for example, Craigslist, one of the most, in terms of traffic, one of the top, still one of the top worldwide domain / website that people still visit. Craigslist invested a lot of money, actually donated a lot of money, I think more than 100 million of his net worth into cybersecurity, because the chances that you have a catastrophe or serious consequences if you even 1 hour of shutdown of the internet is huge. Just to consider that. And not to be surprised, in the same note, between 23 and 24, there is overall an increase in attack, all type, ransomware, DDoS, distribution of service, denial of distribution of service, phishing, bots, social media. You can need another, but I'm sure you're not surprised on that. What is probably less in the news, at least is less in the news today, is a surge in automotive attack in the last 3 years. Now you need to remember that there are huge investment, and there will come gradually, but they will come self-driving car and related truck, stuff like that. In 2024, there were 26,000 driving cars all around the world in different capacity, limited, region, etc. But there are 26,000 autonomous vehicles. Now, and as you can see from the number, you have a huge surge in attack. There are various reasons for that. One, or not least, cars are very vulnerable to cyber attack. Various reasons for that. Another important things to keep in mind, and cybersecurity spending, again, is not a surprise, is increasing 7 to 11% CAGR per year. Okay. Equally, it's not a surprise if I tell you, due to AI security issue, AI safety product industry is emerging. I got a few names dropped in the bullet point here, like Virtue AI, Protect AI, etc. And these will continue to emerge, basically continue to rise. The more the attack rise, the more you need any kind of security software, including security software that use automation like AI to try to protect from these attacks. The technical fail is hard. If there is any prediction we got wrong for last year, is exactly that. We thought that new AI or cryptographic technology, whatever that is, could tame the surge in deepfakes. Was not the case for various reasons. The obvious one, which kind of we should have considered ourselves, is if you take an image which is a fake, which is watermarked. So watermarked. If you take your phone and do a picture of that image, the watermark doesn't exist anymore. Yet you have the picture. Okay, so any technology that get a cryptographic element to the image, a watermark, or anything, is enough to take a phone out to remove the watermark of of the cryptographic element, validate the originality of the picture. Therefore, I kind of skeptical that happens, but hey, there are now more social that require your content to be labeled. This is gonna, I'm skeptical that is gonna do a huge, reduction in deepfake, but at least there are signals that you are trying to, tackle the problem of deepfake. Okay, so it should require now content to be labeled if it is Gen AI producer or not. Okay. Together with that, yes, I forgot to mention that we have now new technology for watermarking. Again, I remain skeptical for the reason I just explained it. Agentic AI. Now, this is a new hype word. Agentic AI. So basically, you build your own agent that works for you. This is nothing new, by the way. I've been involved in cybersecurity, AI in cybersecurity since 2017, and I could see since then bot using reinforcement learning or things like that, both from attack and defense already being used or experimented, at the very least now widely used, both in attack and defense. But we could see in this year the AI botnets can 1,000 of website to find weaknesses on the attacks, and we could see as we speak in defense doing the same. So the system they are autonomously trying to detect, analyze, and respond to bots. So there is as we speak in the internet, there is a war on bot, both trying to attack and defend. What can we conclude with all of that? I give us some prediction turn for the next year. Well, there will be, as I say, the number of vehicles that are autonomous will increase. At the same time, cars are the more vulnerable in terms of cyber attacks. Therefore, I'm expecting, sadly, to see a serious remote video attack. Serious, at least in my idea, is something that it will impact in the use, impact the public audience in the news, yeah? And raise awareness, basically, how vulnerable cars are in terms of cyber attack. Equally, I'm expecting the software AI data will be acquired by a large tech player, by more than 100 millions. And as you can see, the regulations, at least in Europe and UK and a few other countries, give at least guidelines in AI regulations. Now, I'm expecting, there are a few people actually expecting soften this regulation. I expecting to remain flat. They will not be softened, but definitely will be stricter for cars. Yeah. I'm not sure if countries or the UAR will become a little bit softer, but definitely I'm expected to have stricter regulation for automotive in general due to the vulnerability, as I said before. Now, although I remain skeptical, I'm also expecting actually to have a new watermarking solution where we'll try to combine blockchain, AI, and cryptography, and attempt to again attempting to tame or tackle again the problem of deepfake or validating, fake, mostly fake images, mostly. Okay. I'm skeptically will get traction, but I'm expecting to have at least one product that's trying to do something different. They claim it can reduce deepfake or detect deepfakes. I'm talking about images, by the way. Video is too difficult. Text is, I don't believe it's possible to do it. Next, unless there is anyone that has any question, which is not, is great. Okay, next is industry AI adoption. Okay, so industry AI adoption. Now, the first thing to understand is, unfortunately, we are in the news that if you read just the news, you will have the understanding that most of the industry are fully adopting AI at rapid speed. Basically, no one is left is yet to adopt AI. Unfortunately, that's not, in my experience and what I read in research survey reports, is not exactly true. In fact, it's a mixed result so far in terms of AI adoption in industry. I explain what I mean. Mixed result because, for example, for McKinsey, at least 72% of the company using Gen AI in one function, a specific function, admin, whatever that is, okay? But many are still searching for ROI, according to Wharton or GBK report, Combined to that, you need to think that US large banks take at least 1 year to do a rollout or a POC in one jurisdiction, or at least 8 months if you consider ADC reports, So you take at least between 8 months to 1 year to do one POC rollout. POC, no full scale solution. Many are still searching for ROI, but at least 72% of the company interviewed or reviewed by McKinsey are still using one function. Okay, so mixed bag, as you can see. In healthcare and finance, you reached 71 to 66% adoption in specific function. What it means is you have a specific model for fraud detection that has been implemented. They're using AI in the backbone, or a risk analysis real-time model in finance. They're using some sort of AI, whatever that is, in the backbone, or diagnostic system for image detection in healthcare, or admin automation. Now, admin automation, I mind you that this is more related to RPA, robot process automation, with some element of AI, the processing of some document or some compliance report to produce, etc. So you automate the production of these reports, which is definitely plural. But as you can see, nothing the vanilla JetGPT that does everything, that kind of does everything, you slam on a system and then you adopt that. No, there are very specific models, a very specific task that are employed within an infrastructure of the organization. Okay, this is important to understand. You are not talking about Copilot slamming to the system and then it's doing something. That's not at least what I see most of the time. Not to say that single employee they may use it, but they know using specific to the function within a orchestrated a well-defined process within the organization. What they use in a well-orchestrated, a pre-planned process within the organization, these small AI solutions, as I said, for detection, admin process automation, whatever. Not surprisingly, the AI's adoption is actually in marketing, operation, procurement. Again, these are industries that are very process prone, lead generation or procurement, which means compliance and stamping, variety of document, etc. And equally important, these industries are less regulated, which means they are, if you want to use AI, you need to have less, you need to you need to undergo less compliance than the other sector. Therefore, there is a better incentive to use AI if you don't have the cost of the compliance of using AI. Again, this is a mixed bag. So, according to Gartner, the major reason why there is no higher adoption of AI is actually the search for a return of investment, which is difficult to estimate. Although, again, that's why it's a mixed bag. And why reported that most AI projects have a positive return. Mixed bag. USA and China score 77 and 63 in terms of preparedness in AI. Yeah, so basically how much they are prepared to employ AI. I'm a bit skeptical of this number because I think China is already very sophisticated technology all across, but hey, that's what the IMF said. DeepSeek and other research saw an importance, again, RLF or post-training technique, which means basically you need data labeling or data labeling platform to fine-tune your model for the best performance. Once you have the bar model, you need to train specifically what you want to do. Yeah, and there is another element to consider. I choose this from Goldman Sachs. That there are at least 300 million of jobs that are risk to be automated, especially I would say in Western economy. As you can imagine, the larger, well, the larger, the richer the economy, the less is prone to manual work, like ancient, not ancient, not automated agriculture, etc., which exactly is more white collar based than blue collar based, and white collar based are more prone to automation than blue collar based jobs. Yeah, and for that reason, since there is a risk of displacement, U.S. Congress already proposed a few times, I believe, a bill for AI education, basically reskill our workforce. Yeah, and reskill our workforce to find different job that they are going to be automated. What can we say to all of this? Well, first we need to understand that due to the rise of cost or UAI Act, for example, or any other regulation is impacting mostly Western country and China, but most of the other countries do not have this. Therefore, running AI solution there is cheaper in any case. There is an incentive, as I said before, as a DeepSeek, but any other show that if you have a top model, you need some data labeling at the end, post-training in some sort. Therefore, I'm expecting that the outsourcing into in emerging economies, which is already happening, by the way, is even more increasing because there they have less regulation. In any case, of course, the workforce is cheaper. That was even before. But equally important, you can train, have a large pool of trainers for your data, for your data platform that can in turn be used to train your models, whatever the model is. And I'm actually predicting that the outsourcing, especially the knowledge process outsourcing, will grow even faster than what others say. I keep this for reference. Precedence research expect a 13.7% growth, and therefore I'm expecting to see next year a growth larger than 13.7%. That's what I mean with this trend prediction. Now, as you can see in this number ahead, we expecting adoption in the industry for sure, but I still expecting narrow a specific task adoption of AI in specific model. Okay, while large, the Copilot, the ChatGPT will be adopted, especially in unregulated industry, as is already now, by the way. If you see on the left, is already written the highest adoption is in marketing, operation, and procurement. There is a reason for that. It's process prone, and at the same time is not is process prone, and there are less regulation. Okay, now. Not to say that we will see an increase in an individual professional adoption that is kind of not within the infrastructure of the system. If an employee does it, it does because you want to use it for his own job, but it's not mandate as in the job description he has to use. Okay. Need to remember on this prediction that the US admin workforce is about 10 to 12% of the total, and I'm expecting, of course, the catalyst trend related to that, and the with the contingent reason on the left, that the US workforce will not lose more than 1% due to AI this year. I will not say there is a mass redundancy coming. Average AI rollout will still be high again. Adoption is a mixed bag. Yes, we have adoption, but adoption is low. You need to restructure many things within an organization. Will still be and a rollout will still need 8 to 12 months as it is today. To factor in the fact that there is a prospective fear and justified fear, by the way, and reality that in the future you may have job displacement, although in my judgment are exaggerated. In any case, you need to reskill the workforce in AI. I believe the US will establish a nationwide AI education program to reskill the workforce in any case. And that's what's supposed to happen or expected to happen within the year. Okay. Next is consumer and AI adoption. Okay. Now we are gonna in this slide. I'm gonna give the trend prediction of what we think is gonna happen in the next year in terms of consumer individual user adoption. Okay. Now, first of all, you need to remember, as we stand today, at least in the US workforce, 31% use ChatGPT at least once. Yeah, this is at least the latest survey. And you need also note, as I say in the last slide, that 60% of the workforce in an advanced country is impacted by AI. Okay, this is supposed to be clear to understand, right? If the economy is advanced, you have more white collar than blue collar. White collar, more roughly speaking, use more internet service and using AI or whatever other service, so is more prone to automation than other jobs. That's the way it is. Now, another very interesting fact to know is if you take the web traffic, yeah, for example, similar web, you will see that generally speaking, ChatGPT and alike, Claude, Copilot, etc., the total traffic is for these, Gen AI service, again, Copilot, ChatGPT, etc. US is still the first, 14%, 10% in India, 4 each is UK, Brazil, and Indonesia. So again, the first in web traffic for ChatGPT, Copilot, all combined is about 14%. Similar web data. Okay. The second is actually India. The third, the fourth, and the fifth are 4% each: UK, Brazil, and Indonesia. Now, in the top 5 countries, 85 to 90% still use ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is by far the Gen AI service most used. While interestingly, Indonesia, US have slightly more diverse traffic. Still, ChatGPT has the lion's share, the vast lion's share, 85% of traffic, while 11% in Gemini and 3% in Cloud. So by far, at the moment, ChatGPT is by far winning the user and adoption race. Okay, and in terms of country they're using the most, yes, is first, but as you can see, there are many emerging economies in the top 5: Indonesia, Brazil, yeah, and India. It's important to notice, not only me, but there are studies about that. The smarter you are, you're gonna be the smarter using AI. Now, there was a transitionary moment in which, if a person less able than another using AI, it could catch up faster. Now, the longer term, if both are exposed to the AI, at the end of the day, the smarter will be still smarter, because he's going to be able to do the smartest post. He's going to be able to ingest the data faster. He's going to be able to correct the AI better than the other when it goes wrong. The smarter will still be smarter with AI. There is a transitionary moment in which the less smarter can fakingly seem as the same output, but in a longer term situation, the smarter still is the smarter. Software developers are the ones that benefit the most about AI. This is important to see because code generation very good at the moment. They do still few mistakes, but definitely across all the categories of job that using the AI the most, I would say for variety, obviously, because software developers are the one that for them is easy to understand a little bit, be less care of AI or any software solution, right? They are more prone to use technology than other categories of people. I'm a coder myself, you see. Individuals are allowed experimenting AI solution, supervising their own AI. Now, as I say, there is a kind of a hype in agentic AI in the sense that the technology is still clunky, but not to say, like I said before, in cybersecurity, having bot or agentic AI that screen thousands of websites per second and defend automatically a certain perimeter or satellite infrastructure is normal. It's been normal for a few years, including the first one and the latest technologies. But there are other labs that are experimenting with AI solution. Two important examples to give is Sakana AI, which I think is in Japan, but I may be mistaken, or India. Apologies, don't remember exactly where they are, but definitely they are called Sakana AI, which they train the whole system of LLM, not one LLM, it's a process of different LLM doing different stuff within a process to create automatically our own research. Okay, so basically the AI agentic system is trying to implement certain simulation. If the simulation goes wrong, it retrain the simulation. When something interesting goes further, it changes the parameter to see if it can expand the research, finding even something interesting. And at the end, writing a research paper, re-editing the research paper for error and feedback loop, all this to create new research. Okay. So this is an agentic AI system. As you can see, this is not something that the consumer can do with drag and drop, a couple of clicks. You need some experience, first of all, in research and in building a solution to create all the system to work well. Yeah, that's why it's an hype. It's an hype because only at the moment expert people can set it up in a good way. It's not a drag and drop, couple of clicks you have your own agent. It doesn't work that way unless it's a very, very simple case like creating a wallet or something like that, or managing a wallet, something like that. Yeah, or managing your emails. There's way to do that, but N/8, I think is the name of the company. Just to give a name of in which is a very, very simple case of agents stuff, not the large things you have in mind at the moment in the media. Another very important example. This is why in the catalyst trend there is a merging between AI and blockchain or crypto is at the moment, if you go on X, you will see a channel or called AISBT. This basically, I believe, was built using Virtuals, which is a blockchain token and technology that allows people to build agent. This agent on the backbone use an AI LLM to get first all the information about different tokens, summarize it on that, and in real time give the user that follow this bot on Twitter, on X, instantaneous best information or whatever happened on X or any other channel at the moment. Yeah, so digest all the information, give you the best of the information at the moment if you follow for free this channel. Okay, so this is about definitely is an agentic AI because it does many things. It collect all the information, it summarize, it understand what is important and not important, and give that in real time to whoever is follows this bot or channel on X. And I believe he has more than 200,000 followers, 500,000 followers, something like that, at the moment of writing. I'm speaking now. Moment of writing, probably 200,000. I don't remember exactly. Definitely is an agentic AI solution, as you can see, merging AI with blockchain. Custom GPT agent. Now, OpenAI with ChatGPT, Anthropic with Claude, they building their own platform to allow people with drag and drop, couple of clicks, create their own custom GPT, which basically means some agent. Now, the technology is a little bit clunky to say, but I also has to report the number, which is there at least registered, recorded more than 3 million of these agents. But the functionality is a little bit unclear, or very limited functionality, let's put it that way. But these are the data. More than 3 million of these custom GTP or agent have been created using the OpenAI platform. I don't have any number exactly per Claude, but could be a good number as well. Now, what we can deduct from all of this? Definitely the adoption of in the workforce, yeah. So people between 18 and 64, as you see on the left, first bullet points, will continue to increase. Now we are 31%. I'm expecting by end of the year 40% of the US workforce will use ChatGPT or alike at least once. Okay. Cheaper inference of AI model. Basically, the fact they cost less per token to use any of these LLM APIs. The top three non-country. I'm expecting that the top three non-first world country, and it's not China. Yeah, with large outsourcing workforce like India, will have 25% of the combined traffic of ChatGPT. Now, we have now, I believe, if you see on the left side, is for India, 12% is today. I believe 25%. So we go to, I believe, around 12%, yeah, to about 25% of traffic or next year. That's what I'm expecting, because again, country they have already an outsourcing workforce for the West. We continue to use even more these services, yeah. And this is on par of what I was saying before in the previous catalyst trend for industry prediction. As you can see here, the knowledge process of sourcing, yeah. I'm expecting a rise in knowledge process of sourcing because we are sourcing to them. As combined to that, since we are sourcing work into this country, these are the countries that use LLMs or AI, Gen AI services. Yeah, these two things goes together. The industries are outsourcing more to these countries. Yeah, for various reasons, say in the first slide. Since we are outsourcing them more, they will use more this web Gen AI service, and so you will see more traffic. Okay, these two things go together. AI agent will be still complex, as I say. If you try this Claude platform, Claude computer platform, or either a limited functionality is a bit clunky. That not to say that we will have some good example of agentic solution. Yeah, I'm expect like we see the AI XBT bot on X. Yeah, I'm expecting, in fact, to have at least 2% of the news account with more than the follower to be agent. For the same reason we see AI XBT. This is a perfect use case to use a bot. Yeah, and at least 50% of agent accounts with more than 100,000 followers will be built on blockchain. Again, for the same reason we see in an account. This is a perfect solution for that. There could not be a better case to use the combination AI and blockchain together. Of creating bot for agent news that combine the all the sources all together. It can digest for you quickly, and you get the basically the latest news across all multiple channels in real time. Now, at the same time, since the advent of DeepSeek, let's put it that way, they show that you can win a race even with limit. Well, not winning. There are many reasons, but go to top performance, not without winning, but going to top performance with reasonable amount of money and resources instead of having the largest resources available. I'm expecting the major player in the foundational model, we are going to refocus and put more the resources in winning the battle of who has the best node, rather than trying to build even more the AI ecosystem. Because first and most important thing is to win that battle, solidify that battle. Second is having an ecosystem and a platform to do it, to basically train these agentic solutions, which are a bit clunky anyway. But we are going to continue to see a lot of agentic agent between AI and blockchain. That's exactly what I'm going to say. So I'm not expecting to see adoption within the custom GTP7 platform, unless it's very simple cases, but I'm expecting to see a lot of adoption of agentic, very useful solution through the merging of AI and blockchain. Yeah, like we see with the crypto training analysis AI XPT or similar. Okay. That said, we move on the next slide. And okay, we move on the next slide. I forgot to see if there were any question, but there isn't. At least I cannot see it. Again, this is model advancement in text. Okay, GenAI, roughly speaking, I divided in two categories. One is text or LLM. It's a bit more than text, but let's say text. And the other one is video or image or audio or generic audio video game or whatever else. Yeah. Here in this slide, we are focusing on what is going to be or expected to see in advancement of GenAI space and models in text abilities. Yeah. So first, what are the contingent reasons? First is, again, is DeepSeek R1 result, which was almost on par with ChatGPT. Again, I stress, yes, they were able to build with a fraction money, as I wrote here, with less than 200 GPU, which is a reasonable amount, but not a huge amount. But they show, the most important thing to understand with this is they show that small player can perform a race. There are new incumbent. There can be a new incumbent, and there is a post training, which is reinforcement learning in their case, that is very useful for top performance. Okay. Now, that not equally important to that, they wrote in the same paper. I don't know many actually read the paper, but I'm quoting that in the second bullet points. Advancing beyond the boundaries of intelligence may still require more powerful base model and large-scale reinforcement learning. Translated, the best money and the best raw compute still will produce the best model. There's no way out of it. In other words, they could not achieve what they achieve without first having model that splash a huge amount of money in reserves, etc., make that free, and then they build on top of them. Yeah. If that wasn't happening and build everything that they did for free and releasing for free for the public, they could not exist. Yeah. And if after that there will be new model that use them with less money, this is kind of tricking the game, right? It's not that they started from scratch without knowing all the rest. Yeah, they build on top of things that already happened with huge amount of money, not without. That's why it's a bit unfair to say that a small player can win without a bigger player. Without a bigger player, they could even exist. And they know that as they write it in, as I reported the quote in the second bullet points. Last year showed a new architecture. Mamba is a new architecture. Well, the commercial name is Mamba. The technical name is State Space. Can perform a good level. Yeah. In fact, this was one of the good prediction we did from last year. We expected that now we are in a world in which transformers are the best model, and all the best top performance model use transformer based architecture. Not to say, I was seeing the previous part one deep dive, that there are other architectures. In fact, we predicted there are others that can go at least top 10 or top 10 result. One of these is the state space. Well, actually, the most famous one is the state space. Mamba is the commercial term. Yeah, it can be a router that perform a good level, top 10, for example. Yeah. Still model around the train. Now, this is something that is kind of going under radar, at least in the last year. Nobody is talking too much about how to train AI model and how much we still need better data or more data, and the answer is yes. In fact, with a degree of success, you can see model from Microsoft, for example, or Cosmopedia by Hugging Face, a way to train model with purely synthetic data or very curated list of synthetic data, very high quality data, synthetic data. And at the same time, again, the merging between AI and blockchain, there are community like Bintensor, there are structuring platform that allow sharing of data. Yeah. Again, this is one is calling me test. So the idea is that since there is a lack of data, or we need way more data to train better model, so hence improve the performance of the model. One way is a company that does data labeling using scale AI, etc. The other way is to use the power of a large pool of people that can put together resources, in this case data or computer power, and therefore train a better model through that. To to collate or aggregate these people and their data and their resources, we need a technology, and this technology is the blockchain, of which one is big tensor, as I say in this example. Post-training technique are emerging as differentiation. Again, it's not only DeepSeek. DeepSeek is the latest, but over the years, most paper, if not all, they used a post-training technique to boost the performance of the model. Usually it's either DPO or reinforcement learning by views mass feedback, LLHF, and use a specific data set, sometimes very curated data set to do the performance, the performance boost at the end, okay? Equally important, Hugging Face, which is one of the most platform to how would I say, collaborate and share models. And detail a process to generate synthetic Cosmopedia, synthetic data, Cosmopedia. OpenAI GPT-4 is GPT-5, not 4.5, which has just been released, is expected to use up to 70% of synthetic data. The reason is there is not much human data left to train, therefore they need to rely on synthetic data, therefore we need new way to create more synthetic data, Hence why GPT-5 is expected to use at least 70% of synthetic data. That said, what do we expect from all of this? Well, as even R1 DeepSeek said, the best overall pre-trained model will be still a big tech lab play, 40% of data will be still synthetic, or more. And I'm expecting they will not be transformer based. Look, there are already a lot of seniors that, yes, transformer is still the best performing architecture to get the best performer out on an LLM. However, as we see from Mixture Expert by Mistra, you can look at the part 1 when I analyzed the best AI paper, and or the NVIDIA paper, they did an hybrid version or different system to get the best model. I'm expecting to the best model of the year will a sort of mixture of architecture, not just relying on transformer, a mixture of architecture to get a little bit over the limitation of the transformer and combine that with the qualities of other type of architecture somehow. We require 40 million US dollar or more in training in the final run. An average score will be 15% better than the top performing model under 10 million in final run. And top million final run and 50 billion parameters. What I'm trying to say here is that the distance at the end of the year, the distance will be the top performing leaderboard model across all the benchmark, and the top performing model with less than 50 billion parameter, 10 million in the final run, will be maximum 15%. That's will be the maximum difference, no more. Now, will be proprietary or will be open source? Well, not sure exactly, because there will be a big tech or big lab, but definitely, even if it will start as open source, within 6 months, someone else will be able to, roughly speaking, reproduce or do something similar, open source. Now, in terms of post-train specific for one benchmark, before we were talking about model like ChatGPT or the alike, is a vanilla model, top performing across different benchmark or different skill set ability, like math, producing text, producing poetry, whatever that is, reasoning, whatever. Now I'm talking specifically model that can top perform a specific one benchmark. Post-training specific. Fine-tuning the model, post-training specific for manual, can be math, for example. One R metric. In that case, I'm expecting that there will be a post-training model with top performing top 2 not necessarily one, but top two. Yeah, second place, max. They will use a mock mixture hybrid of post-training techniques, so not necessarily only DPO or not necessarily solely reinforcement and reinforcement treatment, hybrid, a mixture of them. Will be the top in one single matrix, as I say. We'll have, here's the interesting thing, either we'll have proprietary data, so companies that are specific data for a specific industry can be a good chance to produce a model like that because they have the best data available, or an AI model from a lab or big tech, or a community in the blockchain. Again, as I say, we are seeing the emergence of communities, let's say, as I said before, in big tensor, they can share the data. Then maybe this sharing of data can be competing with a large model, one of the two. When a company has proprietary specific data. Okay. Last but not least, a data labeling thing. Again, one of the famous one is Scale AI. Will be entering the race of data proprietary model, ranking top 10 in the benchmark. If you think about it, Databricks already entered. I think he was top 10 for a while in the leading benchmark. And again, a company like OpenAI, if I'm not mistaken, 2023 was already collaborating for training the model with OpenAI. So they, not necessarily OpenAI, but not necessarily Scale AI, but a company like that could enter directly in the game, or expecting to enter directly in the game and produce a top 10 model directly for them. Yeah. With that, I have finished with the model advancement in text. I'm gonna see if there is anyone that wants to ask question on that. No? Okay, I can move on the prediction model advancement on audio, image, and video. Okay, now this is a long discussion. It is close to 2 hours already, so I want to move quickly on that. But one of the most important thing to understand is, as much as it can be counterintuitive, training an LLM, so a text-based model, is actually more expensive. It requires more training than training a video Gen AI model or an image Gen AI model. There are many reasons for that. Well, there are a few reasons for that, but I cannot get into that. But please take that into consideration. That's why you are way more in the news about LLM than video. Also, of generation of image, etc. Also, the usage of generation of video image is specific to industry, yeah? While generation of text is something that is widely used by any human being. There's also that actually needs to be considered. That said, straight on the contingent reason, again, if you're gonna be lost again, the prediction on the right are a combination of secular trend, which we analyze, a catalyst trend, which we analyze, a contingent reason. The sum of that give a hint of what is going to be the trend prediction for about the last 12 months or so. Okay. Now, text to image or video generation. Okay. There are a few players. One is OpenAI. There are Chinese, like Clink, are still top of the leaderboard. That is even Google is in the game. It released a short movie that look good, and especially for previous version, I would say. If you see the generation of short movie 24, and you compare with the best AI generated movie in 23, you will see a huge improvement. Okay, up to you to see. The problem of this is the complexity in user. You see, again, you're talking about agentic AI, etc. Even for image generation or short movie generation, it takes a significant time and experience of thousands of generations to get it right. Yeah, so it's coming, but not coming that quickly. Okay, movie director already using post-production. An example is The Brutalist to convert. I believe that was to convert the accent of a character and an actor when it was playing the movie. I corrected the accent with another accent. Text to image specifically. Again, there are diffusion-based model, all of them. And there are mostly, as you can see, American companies know that, and Chinese companies. That has to be noticed. It's not written explicitly, but both for text to image and to video, or text to image directly, they're both Chinese and American company on the top of the list most of the time. Okay. Now, it's important to notice that most of the name you see here, Gemini 3, DALL-E 3, Grok, all perform similarly. But the latest DeepSeek Janus Pro, I think it was released in January, outperformed DALL-E 3, hence the similar model to them, Gemini 3 and Grok. Okay. Small model. You have the ability to have small model 2 billion of parameter, which basically run on mobile and get decent result anywhere. What I think is decent, you may not think is decent, but you can try for yourself. The important thing here is to see the rate of improvement. Again, compare 2023 with 2024, you will see a huge rate of improvement. Okay. Now, multimodal, but for the people that don't know, it means that you can give to the model both text, audio, video, and you can ask to do something with that, it will do it. Instead of an LLM, they can as input only text, get output only text. That's one modal. One multimodal, it means that you can give audio, text, and video, and any combination of that, it will produce an output for you. It can be also an output, can be a video, text, and a combination. Okay, this is a multimodality. As 2020, a contingent reason the latest in this data by January 25. These are model. As you can see, there are named Quen is Chinese, Intern I believe is Chinese. I don't remember from one. The other are the American, and so, these are open weight. Yeah, Quen is from Alibaba. Equally important, we need to see the improvement for video game generation. And the best we could see from last year, Google Genie 2, which basically for a couple of prompts, you can describe an environment, video game environment with a couple of prompts, and that will be creating an environment prompt in a few prompts. This is quite a jump forwards, I would say, because it lowered the barrier a lot in terms of video game production. As basically every person that has a good idea can prompt well, can do a decent video game environment with a few prompts. Now, yes, this is a technology that needs refinement for sure. It needs better everything really, but it's a breakthrough, but never basically before was never even possible, even to do that with low quality. Yeah. From the audio part, I mean, prompt text to audio basically is very noticeable that Notebook LI, basically content test into podcast, got traction. Yeah, basically there is an got traction. I mean, many people were using it without any advertisement. By the way, I don't think they advertise. Google advertise, and there is an AI VTuber called Neurosama got a record on Twitch. Basically, AI VTuber, it means a bot doing the AI. It's been, followed and got more prizes by his human followers more than any other in their specific record. I'm not an expert on Twitch, but I know there is a specific record that I broke that record. And this is basically an agent followed by humans. Yeah? Okay. What we can deduct from all of this? Well, first is that on the top 5 model on the leaderboard for both image and video generation, there will be a lot coming from an emerging economic commonly excluding China. Well, that's what I expect. Again, it's not written here because it's an underlying fact. It's not a contingent fact. Again, video and image Gen AI is less resource consuming and money consuming than text LLM. Hence, you need less money, less advanced GPU, etc. Therefore, the chances that a country, a lot coming from a country that is not from an advanced economy has even more chance to get into the leaderboard. Therefore, I'm expecting that again, on the top 5 leaderboard model for video image, there will be a new lab company coming from an emerging content excluded economy. If you consider China an emerging economy, which is not. A mobile video game will be using GenAI tool, will go in the news. Again, we are Jenny D from Kudos show that is possible, yeah? So it's possible a couple of prompts to create your own environment from nothing, yeah? Therefore, it's not now a stretch to imagine a mobile video game, mobile, which is a bit easier in my judgment, using purely GenAI tools. So this person will not know how to code, yet it will build a video game and it will go on the news because it will go viral. A text-to-image model, not diffusion-based, will be achieving sort of top 10 in the leaderboard. Now, this is related to the fact that there are other architecture beyond diffusion getting traction. Again, we talk a little bit more on that in AI advancement in the part 1 of this video. But yes, I'm expecting by the end of this year, diffusion model will probably still best in the leaderboard, but there will be at least one competitive new architecture, different than diffusion, that will be reaching state of the art sort of top 10. Okay, and with that, I'm going to get in the last but not least before the semi-series trend prediction. AI adoption in science. Now, this is probably going to be a little bit more controversial, a little bit more, I would say, encompassing different skill set, but still is important, I believe, to understand what happened in adoption of science and healthcare research in that specific case. First of all, a few data, again, contingent reasons. In USA, there is a significant interest in reducing drug costs. If you heard about, I think it's, costplusdrugs.com, I think it's Mark Cuban, a billionaire, founded that. They basically allow people to buy medicine at lower cost because they reduce significantly the cost of brokerage or shipping or things like that. And at the same time, there is let's put it in that way, a huge debate on the role of insurance and healthcare system in general, because many people have been denied, insurance coverage when supposedly they should have things like that, and that created unpleasant situation like the shooting of one CEO of an insurance company, as you could see in the news recently. This is a fact, sadly, but I need to report that. Again, we have a huge surge in adoption for GLP-1 drugs. Commercial name are Ozempic and Wegovy. Show result for diabetes, weight loss with cascade effect for soft drink, alcohol, and snack consumption falls. Basically, the people that first of all can afford, because I think it $10,000 US dollar amounts to buy one of these drugs, and they can reduce their exposure to weight loss and treat their diabetes, but at the same time, the side effect is obviously they have less need to consume. They feel less need in their body to consume something alcohol, salty snack, as much of 4%. And that creates a cascade again effect on, for example, clothes. If you imagine if you are an obese person, again, remember, obesity is one of the largest problems in certain countries, including the US. I think 40% of the population see the secular trend. So if an obese person is basically getting less obese, he needs to change size, a smaller size. Hence, there is a cascade of fat on buying new clothes. This is being reported by The Time or Morgan Stanley. Machine learning has been already applied to GLP-1, you can see in the note, with drug improvement. Not drug design or new drug generation, but improving, efficiency of the drug. New crypto communities are emerging to build modern and simulate proteins. That's interesting to say. Again, I mentioned a few times for different things, but big tensor and macrocosmos basically creating an infrastructure in which people can train models and share data to train models. and to simulate protein and basically molecular structure that obviously are drug related. Okay, not necessary for GLP-1, but I don't remember which drug they do. You can see yourself, but there are ways to share computation and data to train an AI model to simulate proteins. Yeah. Google released AlphaFold 3. By the way, AlphaFold started, I believe, in 2018, the first AlphaFold. Now we are the third generation of AlphaFold 3. And it allows prediction or interaction between protein and smart molecules. It's a free server for research and experiment. Basically, AlphaFold was the first, and in fact, I believe it did some breakthrough in certain proteins at least 1 or 2 years ago already, but now they obviously improved massively the model, and it can, as they say in this statement, can not only create protein that will work in real life with certain characteristic, but can simulate the interaction of these molecules or protein with other molecules. A is free from research, which also means will boost will boost the usage / the the discovery of new things if the service is free. Research shows an LLM performing protein engineering. Yeah, now again, protein engineering doesn't mean they will design the protein, etc. An LLM cannot do that, just in clear, but it can, refine things that maybe the researcher have missed or never thought about, etc. It's kind of an advanced brainstorming for protein engineering. Yeah, it's not about designing or improving the efficiency of the molecule of the protein molecule per se, again, because that you need specialized models. There's AlphaFold. This is AlphaFold. Micro showed a Gen AI assistant to design inorganic material, MatterGen. Again, that's not organic, it's inorganic, as he said, but that's again going the trend of now there are big players that are trying to create new platform and model that can automatically design and in a way invent new materials or molecule in terms of organic stuff. Okay, now all of that, what does it mean? Well, to me, it means that I'm expecting by the end of the year or next year to have a GLP variant. By the way, GLP-1 is so important because it shows very promising result beyond weight loss and diabetes in many other sectors. So there is an appetite for investment. That's what it means. GLP-1, there is an appetite for investment. Second consideration, as you see here, is there is an appetite for, there is already AlphaFold and related models that can already do variant of molecule. Folding is kind of orientation of a molecule, spelling it very badly. Apologies for that. And therefore, if you combine all these things, and will not be surprised, in fact, I'm expecting the GLP-1 variant, which will use AI software or model, contributed to optimize, discover, or design with style FDA approval process. Basically, a drug for GLP-1 variant drug, they use AI in certain element of it, we start drug approval, approval for being released in the market. Start the approval, yeah? Not finish. Again, this is, as you can imagine, is a very long process. I believe it was shortened just for the COVID vaccine, but the overall process is quite lengthy. That said, we are going to the last slide of that, and we are crossing already the 2 hours, and thank you for listening till now. I believe we need to go in the last slide. Semi-bonus, model bonus, and on that, and bonus, we will talk Pynglish. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that developer, as is written here, developer, we will talk in plain English. What I mean by that is, first of all, as I say in previous slide, the code generation is at the moment is very good using LLM, specific LLM. Okay, that is not written here, but just to remember. Second, these are various reasons why we are faster than others to the level. The first, we're not scared of the technology. Some of us are even contributing some way or form to, use the technology better or improve the technology, etc. Second, internal other software-related professional manner become proficient in coding faster using AI tools. Obviously, the reason why you're faster on adoption is because if you never code before, you start coding using one of these tools. When you're stuck on something, the AI tool can show you quicker the solution. Yeah. Now, that allows you to learn faster. Basically, you're using the machine like your own personal tutor. Yeah. So that allows you, if you use it correctly, instead of abusing, making the AI doing that for you and you don't learn anything. No, you use it as a tutor. So that allows you to understand what it does. So you know the next time if you got that problem, how to solve it, or at least idea how to solve it. Sometimes it works in that way. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily find you the exact solution, but point you the right direction of the solution, at least the latest version of code LLM for coding today. Okay. Second, apart from front end and specific technology, no. Now website is fully automated. You can create interface and front end for AI fully automated. I don't think actually we don't see today demand for developer to shrink. There can be in certain regions for sure, but overall, if you think the component of the overall demand for developers worldwide it may shift from here to India or whatever, but the overall engineering component is, at least for now, is not massively shrinking. It could be in the near future, but it's not at least shrinking now. So what they are expecting by 2027, 10% of non-coder profession will at least try to make their own software script. Explain what I mean. Non-coder will cap developer jargon in common life. An alternative English dictionary like Oxford English Dictionary will add a software word as new recognized word. What I mean by that? So first of all, since it's now the coding LLM are lowering a lot the barrier to basically produce any code. Now, is it perfect? No. Usually, let's put in that way. Using a prompt to code LLM, you can do 95 to 99% all the software required to do your own website. Let's put it that way. Now, after that, you need just 1 or a maximum 5% of the knowledge to finish your final product or website. Okay, this is a good incentive. Before you will need to learn 100%. Yeah, and so since you know that you are very close to the final route, you have a psychological higher motivation to basically study whatever is missing to finish the product. Therefore, as is saying the second bullet point, non-core will cap developer jargon kernel live. They will do something to study the 5% that is missing to allow them to finish the website, whatever the software is, and they pick up the jargon. Yeah. And therefore, once they pick up the jargon, whatever the jargon they're gonna pick up as a extension of that, I'm expecting, obviously this is semi-serious, that an English dictionary will recognize the fact that a large part of the population start to use some terms that are more, prone to programming language, and will add that word as a recognized word and meaning in the dictionary. That's what I mean by that. And with that, I believe I concluded on that. Whoever is here, there are a few people left. The courageous people that still here after more than 2 hours actually. I thank you for your time. If you have any question, I will more than happily answer. Otherwise, I thank you for this, and hopefully, is you learn something today. And with that, I exhausted any topic I wanted to talk about the AI report. Let's see how it goes during the next 11 months, how much we got it right or even wrong. Thank you.